Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Future Women in Science Conference. I am so sad not to be there with you. I've always loved this event, and I find it very inspiring, and I hope you do as well. The speakers are always excellent, and they've got great advice for all of you as you look to embark on your post-secondary studies and careers. Linamar has been the presenting sponsor for this conference for many years. And we do that because as a STEM grad myself, I love the idea of encouraging even more young women into a career in STEM. I like to give advice to young people when they're deciding on what they would like to study in school. Really, three pieces of advice. First, pick an area of study, obviously, that interests you, that you're naturally curious about and that you enjoy learning about. And then I suggest research a little bit what jobs you could get having studied in that area and what's the demand for people in those jobs. So just make sure there's demand. And then lastly, research the earnings potential of those jobs and just make sure they line up with the lifestyle that you envision. I think then you've got sort of a good starting plan for the future. I do feel like STEM checks all the boxes. Super fascinating, I think, tons of jobs, great earnings potential. And I would like to say, though, just because you've done this research, you've checked all those boxes and headed down a path, doesn't mean that you're committed to that path for the rest of your life. I think that what you'll find is you'll likely take some right and left turns along the way. So pick something like STEM that's going to have a lot of options for you and see where life takes you. I found that when people make those right and left turns, it actually gives them an experience and education that makes them completely unique, uniquely qualified to do exactly what they end up doing. So don't be too stressed about these choices. Life can and will change, and that's okay. If you do decide to focus on STEM, I'm happy to report to you that you will not be alone in that choice in terms of other young women in these fields. I can happily tell you that the number of women in STEM is increasing all the time. We have like 20 times the women in engineering and science today that we did 25 years ago. And I really feel like momentum is building. I look at universities in our country, the University of Toronto, one of our country's top-ranked universities with a world-renowned engineering program, is 43% women in engineering and has been north of 40% for several years. And they aren't alone. There's many other schools, including University of Waterloo, Western University, University of Guelph, many others that have more and more women enrolling in engineering, all types of engineering and other STEM programs as well. And I think that's really amazing because there's just so many exciting career opportunities for women in STEM and great pay as well. So women in STEM jobs actually earn 35 to 40% more than their counterparts that are not in STEM jobs. Clearly, there's momentum building for women in these areas of study and work, and we should all, I think, be a little more vocal about sharing these statistics and telling the stories of these women, great inspiring stories. A great example is an initiative that we at Linamar launched in 2018, which we call See It, Be It, STEM It, which is designed to encourage more young women into science and engineering studies, all areas of STEM, through the use of role models. So we created a website where we now have well over 300 stories of inspirational women in a variety of STEM careers that are featured. And for the 6th year, we have just created an incredible calendar featuring 12 of those role models. Here's an example that hopefully will end up in your classroom so we can keep inspiring students all year long. We've distributed over 100,000 calendars to young women across Canada over those 6 years. So I'm pretty excited about that program. We've had some calendars sent over to the conference today, and I would love it if you guys grabbed one before you left. We also hold some networking events, which you might enjoy attending in person or virtually. And I also encourage you to go to our website, seeitbeitstemmit.com, and follow us on Instagram. And while I'm at it, I'd like to ask our panelists today to sign up to be role models on SBS, please. You young women are very lucky because your homes are right here in southwestern Ontario, right in the heart of an incredible ecosystem that has developed around technology and exciting areas such as artificial intelligence and machine learning. And it also happens to be an area that has a deep history in advanced manufacturing. You are sitting in the second largest technology cluster in North America, next only to Silicon Valley. And we have the second highest density of technology and science startup companies in the world. Wow. That means there are a huge number of companies starting businesses, looking for graduates in the technology and science STEM fields. Canada is ranked one of the most innovative countries in the world, and you should feel very proud of that. Canada is also ranked in the top 4 or 5 places in the world for advanced manufacturing. And that's all pretty impressive when you think about the fact that Canada actually ranks 38th in terms of population in the world. So we're punching way above our weight. In my opinion, there has never been a time frame where the technological evolution, thanks to technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning, are going to transform so many industries and so many areas of companies. I think it's a really exciting time. The manufacturing industry is a great example of that. With the advent of advanced robotics and other technology advances, we're rapidly transforming manufacturing into really a technology industry. We have fewer and fewer people running equipment on our plants and more programmers, designers, tool developers, robotics technicians, logistics coordinators, and the list goes on into all kinds of really interesting and, by the way, really high-paying jobs. In addition, I feel like we're doing some really important work in terms of solving some of the world's biggest issues, like reducing or eliminating emissions to improve our atmosphere, or developing technologies to make sure clean water and food are available to all of the world's communities. The fact is that in today's world of rapidly evolving technology, the demand for unskilled jobs is just going to continue to diminish. This makes it just even more critical for all of us to acquire skills, to be part of an exciting, evolving workforce. And really, the very best place to go for those skills will be in STEM, in science, technology, engineering, and math. Well, you've all made the first step in the right direction by signing on today to learn a little bit more about what it's like to work in science and technology and STEM-based businesses. So I hope you enjoy the day. I hope that you learn something new. And ultimately, of course, I hope that you decide to pursue an education and career somewhere in science, engineering, technology, and math. And I hope that you convince some other young women you know to do the same. And I'll leave you with just a hope for a really great day and all the very best of success to all of you.
Welcome to Perimeter Institute and the Inspiring Future Women in Science Conference. My name is Kelly Foyle, and I'm a physicist and a member of Perimeter's educational outreach team. It's tremendously inspiring to see a room like this filled with young women who are curious about the world, passionate about science, and eager to make important contributions. We also have additional guests watching online through our webcast, including Pauline Johnson Collegiate and Vocational School in Brantford, Elsie McGill Secondary School in Milton, White Oaks Secondary School in Oakville, Joanne Cardinal Schubert High School in Calgary, and Swavesey Village College in United Kingdom. Thank you to all of you joining us here and online. We're also pleased to welcome Linamar Corporation as the presenting sponsor of this conference. We have an exciting morning ahead. We're honored to have 20 amazing and inspiring women who have followed a STEM career, and they're here today to support this event and contribute and share their experience. Altogether, they represent over 250 years of work experience in their field. That may make us feel old, but it should encourage you to learn as much as you can as they share their stories and offer you advice for your career ahead. In the next few hours, you'll have the opportunity to learn as much as you can from people who have gone before you. Much of science, too, builds on learning from what has come before. And so it is With that, and in that spirit of understanding and learning of what has come before, that I would also like to acknowledge that we are located on the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. Perimeter Institute is situated on the Haldimand Tract, land promised to 6 nations, which includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. As a young woman living in Canada, you are impacted by all that has come before you, but you also have the opportunity to learn from the experience and perspectives of a truly diverse community. I encourage you to ask questions, remain open to thoughts and reflections and the wisdom of others while considering your own path for the future. Throughout the morning, we've tried to give you as many opportunities as we can to ask questions and talk directly to the speakers and panelists and mentors. Please make sure to take advantage of this opportunity. This day is about you, and your participation and questions are central to making the morning success. So we'll just go over briefly how the morning will work. We'll soon hear from 2 of our 3 speakers. After each speaker has shared, that you will have the opportunity to ask questions. Then, after the first 2 speakers, we're going to have a panel discussion. The panelists will discuss their lives as STEM professionals, but most of the discussion will be driven by your questions. Then, following the panel discussion, we're going to have our final speaker and questions, and then we're going to say goodbye to our online audience and move to the atrium for a speed mentoring session. This is an opportunity to discuss in small groups with women in a variety of STEM professions. The mentors are excited to share their stories with you. So there's a lot ahead, so let's get started. I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Ashley Borsalino is Miss Canada 2023 and a Development Inspector Operator with the City of Brantford. As Miss Canada 2023, Ashley aims to represent women in STEM and construction and demonstrate that there's no right path. Everyone's journey is unique and every experience is valuable. Ashley is a Mohawk College graduate with an advanced diploma in civil engineering technology. Please join me in welcoming Ashley.
Hello, good morning. I hope you're all awake, and if you're not, you will be by the end of the conversation. So before we get into my career and pageantry and all of that, I want you guys to get to know me a little bit better. So I'm gonna explain my background and kind of what led me here today. I grew up in Toronto, and during my young adolescent years, I had to move to Hamilton. And I had the option to come either when I was in grade 8 or in high school. I decided to come in grade 8, so that way I could actually make some friends when I entered high school. It was a big change in my life, and I really just didn't know how to adjust to this huge change. When I ended up getting to Hamilton, Ontario, I realized that things were not going to only be challenging for myself as a high school student, but also within my career. Because at that point in my life, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had hoped that throughout the years of high school, that idea would become clearer. Unfortunately, it did not. I was an excellent student. I took school very seriously, but there was not one subject in particular that I felt that I shined, and not one subject in particular that I felt that I truly, truly loved. I had looked to my guidance counselor, and I said to her, that I would really appreciate, her guidance. I said, can you help me figure out which path I need to take? And she had recommended a program at Mohawk College called Civil Engineering Technology. And I knew nothing about what she was discussing. I didn't know anything about engineering. I didn't know anything about just the civil industry as a whole, STEM as a whole. But I was always a risk taker, and I always wanted to succeed. And keep in mind, I had no other plan. So I said, okay, sure, we'll do this. How does this work? And she had told me that I will be entering college 1 year early, and I'll take 2 credits at Mohawk College, and those 2 credits were AutoCAD and mathematics. And how that worked was I got 2 credits in my high school and 2 credits in college. And I told myself, okay, well, if this goes well and I enjoy it, I'll keep going. I have no reason not to. And of course, because I took school very seriously, I did very well. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess we'll see how this goes. Now, when I entered the program, It was very different than my 2 trial courses because the classes were quite small. When I entered the program, it was very noticeable that the percentage of women was so little. We had a class of about 150 to start, and only about 20 in our first semester were female. And that was quite concerning and quite alarming because within the first semester, those are kind of the general classes where people branch off into different paths. You might be taking architecture, civil, transportation. The point is the class is going to be getting split up. As the years progressed, the number of women decreased. And honestly, the ratio decreased as well. And that could be for whatever reason. At the time, I wasn't too sure. And we can never be 100% certain. But throughout the years, I kind of figured out a reason why this might be. So upon my graduation, we only had about 5 women that graduated within the class. And I had hoped that once I entered the real world, we'll call it, that maybe this would be different, because now not only are we comparing my experience to one particular school or one particular program, but different years, different levels of education, different levels of experience. I was hoping that I was going to see a lot more women in the industry. That wasn't the case. I had my co-op, and I was an inspector for the city of Hamilton during my co-op, and I was actually the only woman on site. And at the time, there was only one woman in the whole department. And it was really concerning to me because I didn't have anybody to look up to. I didn't have an example. If I experienced any sort of issues on site, I was very hesitant to request for assistance. I was concerned that people would think little of me, not only because now I'm young, but I'm also a female and I look different. And I just felt that I just didn't match. I didn't fit. And I didn't have anybody to look up to, really. So I had to learn the hard way. And I'm not a quitter. So I ended up staying in that role, staying with my co-op. I made it that far. I was just about to graduate, so I just had to complete my co-op. And it was quite the experience, being the only woman on site. There's a lot of challenges that you're going to encounter when you're in that sort of environment. There's a lot of different people with different personalities and different mindsets, and not everybody's going to take you seriously. You almost have to prove yourself, and that can go in any direction, whether you're male or female, but because there is that one massive difference, you have that extra spot to fill, that extra proof that you need to provide, which is so unfair, but it's the truth. And if I were to say anything else, I wouldn't be telling you the truth. So I had to work really, really hard to prove that I was worth being in that position. I had to go through a lot of challenges, a lot of people actually saying to my face that I don't belong there, I don't fit in, and it was because I was a female. And I just kind of thought these were horror stories. I didn't think that this would actually happen, or maybe it's just all in my head. No. Throughout the years, I did have people come up to me and let me know that I don't fit, I don't belong, this is not the type of role I should be in, and it's because, well, I'm a woman. And it was just so saddening to hear these kinds of things because, you know, we're in such modern times, you would think better, but unfortunately that was not the case. So I ended up staying in the industry, but because of these experiences that I had, that question that I had in my mind in the beginning of what happened to all the women when I was in school, or why isn't there not as many women on site with me, or why is there not as many women in the industry? I'm like, oh my goodness, well, if not everybody has the same personality or attitude or outlook, this might scare an individual, right? And it's such a shame to see all this hard work that we put in as students and as professionals, and then just to give it all up because of some harsh comments. Now, the reason I started pageantry is very vital to where we are today. I had participated in many pageants throughout the years, and when I came across Miss Canada, and I'll explain a little bit more about how the breakdown works, but when I came across Miss Canada, I noticed that it was very personality-based, very advocacy-based, and I liked that. I was like, this is a good opportunity for me to showcase that I can be feminine, I can be a woman, and I can be successful in this industry. Now, Miss Canada has been around since 1946. It's a very reputable pageant, very reputable organization, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes with the title. I had promised myself that if I won Miss Canada, I would use my platform to be a voice for those that are like me. And when I say like me, sometimes I still feel like a teenager, so I feel like that really resonates with all of you. I will never forget the feeling of being alone. I will never forget the feeling of feeling like an outsider. So I want to make sure that my voice would be heard and that you can also be successful in this industry regardless of the comments you might receive or regardless of the challenges that you might encounter. Now, the pageantry industry, Miss Canada in particular, has a scoring system of 50% personality, 25% gala night, so that's where we dress up in our gowns and do our final question answer period, and then the remaining portion is for public votes. Now, our personality is determined based on how we speak to one another, what our advocacy is, and they took a very big risk on crowning me because there has been no other candidate that has had this type of platform. I mean, there's already a small percentage of us in general in the industry, so of course the likelihood of someone doing this in a pageantry setting would be minimal. So they took a very big chance on crowning me, but I'm so glad that they did because now I'm here to talk to you all today about the challenges that I had encountered and just to encourage you all to keep on going, keep on striving for excellence. It doesn't always come easy, and most good things don't. Now, I want to touch on the other reasons why I love what I do, the reasons why I kept going, aside from wanting to be an example to others. As a development inspector, I work for the city of Brantford, and as a development inspector and operator, my job is to basically, in simplest terms, is to be on site and to overlook all the activities that are ongoing. So this could be municipal specs, provincial specs and regulations, all underground infrastructure, so that will include your water mains, your storm lines, your sanitary lines, potable water systems, everything like that. All the way from groundworks to surface. So this will include your asphalt, construction, and there's a lot of different elements that are included. I love that because you get to touch on so many things. We have the geotechnical component, and I'm not sure how familiar you all are with these terms, but I'll explain them a little bit more in depth. Geotechnical has a focus on your material conditions and soil conditions, so we get to learn a little bit about that in the industry. There's a focus on coordination, scheduling, time management, project management. This allows you to understand the project better, to figure out what cost estimates would be, to figure out how long certain projects take, which also makes you a great leader, because if you can understand the role and the work being completed on site and how long things take, then you have a better understanding of the project as a whole. Another task that would be at my responsibility would be to ensure quality. We want to make sure that everything is done being to a certain code, to a certain specification, and that's my primary job, is to make sure that these things are happening. To record information that's on site, because a lot of what I see gets buried. So if you're not there to capture it and you're not there to record that information, it's gone. Nobody's going to be digging anything up for you on site because you missed it. That's your problem. And that's exactly what they'll tell you. That's not my problem. You weren't here. And they're right. You have to be there. It's your job. You're going to encounter issues on site. You're going to encounter people that are, we'll say, more stubborn, a lot of different personalities that you have to work with. You're going to encounter people that think they're right when they're wrong, and they'll tell you, well, I've been doing this for 50 years. Well, things change, and maybe you were doing it wrong. What can I tell you? People don't like to hear that they're wrong. I don't like to hear that I'm wrong. I'm sure a lot of you don't like to hear that you're wrong. So trying to tell somebody that they're doing something incorrectly or they need to redo it, oh boy, good luck. That's where you get a lot of the heat, and that's where the insults start to come out. Now, it's part of the job. A lot of people don't like inspectors. They think that we're out to get them. I'm not out to get you. I'm just here to make sure that everything is done correctly. Now, I do love this though. It encourages you to become a leader. It encourages you to step outside of your comfort zone. And those are skills that you can't just get from any job. These are skills that you can't just get from any career. And I find that working in STEM as a woman, you really, really build on these skills, these transferable skills. Another reason why I love my job is I get to be outdoors. Now, a lot of you might not end up in an outdoor setting upon graduation, but one key feature that I love is I love being able to see the sunrise and I love being able to see the sunset. And yes, we got to be out there when it's cold and it's rainy and it's muddy and it's snowy and all those great things, but it's something that I wouldn't trade for anything else. I love being outside. I also love getting to know new people, and even the ones with more of a nasty attitude, I love them too. It really teaches us a lot about ourselves, and it teaches us a lot about others. And like I said, these skills help you grow within your life. Now, being a woman on site, of course, it comes with its challenges. But because of these challenges, they allow you to not only better understand yourself, but maybe even allow you to push yourself even further and actually surpass those that you're working around. And it's kind of like that little voice they have in the back of your head that, you know, maybe the memories that you have made along the years that maybe weren't so great, or the small compliments that you got along the way, which strive you to achieve more and to gain more of those. And that's what allows you to go above and beyond what your job is. So I kind of love being a woman on site, actually. I love having those challenges, and I love having those kinds of comments because they add fuel to the fire, and that's how I end up getting further and further. And that is something that I would also recommend to all of you. Now, I have gotten some pieces of advice that I want to share with you all today, and this is from years of experience in the industry. I want to advise you all to not be afraid of how you look, because success has no face. Even when you're the same gender and you look at the person next to you, you still don't look alike. There is no particular appearance that will define your success. It doesn't matter if you're tall, it doesn't matter if you're short, it doesn't matter if you're strong, it doesn't matter if you're weak. I've been told before that I'm too weak for my job. I've had many instances where I would have to be responsible for doing surveying, and of course the equipment is heavy. And they say, well, because you're a woman. Well, it's not because I'm a woman, it's because it's heavy. So, you know, there is no particular look that you need to have to be successful. I get a lot of judgments on the way I look. People assume that I'm less intelligent than them because I like to wear pink. I see nothing wrong with my outfit. I get a lot of comments that, maybe even comments that are inappropriate. And I just remind them, would you say that to your daughter? Would you say that to your wife? And that usually quiets them up. But the point is, I get a lot of focus on how I look. And it could be a positive comment or a negative comment, but it has a negative result in the end regardless. So do not be afraid to look different. Do not be afraid to stand out. Another piece of advice that I have learned throughout the years is to not compare yourself and to not compare your journey to others. This one is so, so, so important. There's so many people that you're going to encounter in your life that are at a different age group than you, but they might be in the same position as you. Or vice versa. People change careers all the time. People change paths all the time. Do not compare yourself. Do not compare your journeys to others. If you are in this constant comparison cycle, you're never going to get ahead in life. You need to focus on yourself, and you need to focus on your own journey. Just because one particular path didn't work out for you, that doesn't mean that you should quit, and that doesn't mean that you should stall on that one thing, that one hiccup. We all get to our destination in different ways, different paths. We all have different lives, different experiences, and these experiences are what shape us. So that's why you can't compare yourself, and that's why you shouldn't compare yourself. The only person that you should be comparing yourself to is the past version of yourself. You should always be looking for some sort of improvement. If something had gone wrong and you know that it was because of maybe something that you did or something that you didn't do, you have to recognize that, and you have to use that to help you move along. So the only person you should be comparing yourself to is the past version of yourself. And I find that that is going to really, really help you on this journey. You're going to be next to people that you have no idea how they made it so far, right? For whatever reason. Or you might be, praising yourself for making it farther ahead quicker. The pace doesn't matter. It's the destination that matters. And I'm not here to be cliche or anything like that. It's the truth. It makes sense. Think about it. It makes sense. I'm actually going to give you a personal example, which I don't always get to share. I competed for Miss Canada in 2022, and I got 3rd place. And I could have easily used that as a reason to give up. I could have said, oh, well, the person that won didn't deserve it. I deserved it. Why didn't I win? Why did she win? That's not correct. You should never think of it like that. You should be happy for those that succeed, whether they're male or female, it doesn't matter. You should be happy for those that succeed. And instead, you should be questioning into yourself, why did I not win? What could I have done to improve? Do not focus on, why did that person win? Why is this? You have to focus on yourself. And because I focused on myself and I really, really pondered what could I have improved on, that's what got me to where I am today. It's about not giving up, and it's about not comparing yourself. Recognize your areas of improvement and actually work on them. We touched on this a little bit. If you've made a mistake or you are unfamiliar with a topic or a subject, educate yourself. Educate yourself. Be prepared to be unaware. You're not always going to know everything that you should know. You're not going to know everything that somebody else knows. You have different experiences and different lives. Step outside your comfort zone and take every opportunity life brings. No matter how much we might not feel like it, taking opportunities is what gets us farther along. You're all here today. This is an opportunity that you took. If you were not here today, your day would look very different. And this is another experience that you're going to gain. You took this opportunity to be here, and this is going to help you in your future. Every single opportunity that you take shapes your future and assists you. Even the ones that seem small, that seem like they don't matter, you might meet somebody, you might learn something, you have no idea. So take every opportunity life brings. And sometimes it might be a bad experience, and that's just life. It's still an experience. Truly believe in yourself. And I say that wholeheartedly. A lot of us just say we believe in ourselves, but we don't actually show that we believe in ourselves. And showing that you believe in yourself is putting yourself out there and not being afraid of failure. And you are going to have a lot of challenges in this industry. The fact that we organize discussions like this and groups like this showcase, how small the percentage of women there are in this industry. So of course you're going to have challenges. But you need to believe in yourself, and you need to understand that you will get there eventually. Wherever that is, you will get there. Speak up if you don't like something, if you want to promote something, if something bothered you, if you have an idea. It doesn't matter if they actually take your idea or not. You have to speak up. Nobody can read your mind. Nobody can read your signals. Nobody knows exactly how you're feeling. You need to actually use your voice, and you need to speak up. And that goes with anything. Don't be afraid of being wrong. Do not be afraid of being wrong. We're not perfect, and not everybody's going to be right all the time. And my final piece of advice in this industry is to never, ever give up. When you give up, that's when you have truly lost. It might take you a little bit longer. You might have a few more challenges, but as long as you never give up, you will always be successful. And if you end up changing your mind and wanting to change your path in the industry, that's not giving up. That's a redirection. And there's nothing wrong with that, because throughout the years, you're going to get to know yourself better, and you get to know what you like better, and maybe even what you're better at. But the point is, you never give up and you keep on persevering. Now, I welcome any questions that you might have. It can be industry related, pageantry related, life in general. I welcome anything. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, if you have a question, please make your way down on the stairs. I, of course, have a question, if you don't. I wondered if you could tell us, being Miss Canada, I'm sure that's a big responsibility. Has it changed the way you do your work in any way?
Excellent. Thank you for asking me that. Has it changed the way I do my work? No, not necessarily. Not how I do my work, but it has changed how people view the industry. 100%. And I'm not saying I've changed the world or anything like that by any means, but there is that example. I've had people message me about their little girl that sees me, and they're just so excited that there's somebody that looks like them that's in the industry and that could be an example. I love that I could have that effect on people, and each one of you can also have that effect on somebody. You're all unique individuals, and somebody seeing you in the path that you're in can actually spark an idea. Like I had mentioned earlier, I had no idea anything about the industry. We have this term on site, and it's called green. And green means that it's like the polite way of saying that you know nothing. So we've all been there, and we all start somewhere. So I really like being an example. So has it changed the way I work? No, not necessarily. I still work the exact same way. It has changed my life, of course, and it has changed my impact on others, but not the way I work.
Great. You have a question?
So you talked a bit about feeling like you didn't belong, and then eventually moving to a place of almost like appreciation for those challenges. And what sort of flipped that switch? How did you move to really appreciating and sort of getting rid of that imposter syndrome?
Yes. Okay. I love that question, because that is something that I really, really had to overcome, and feeling like I didn't have anybody to look up to really affected me. I'm not going to lie, I would spend nights crying. I'm not going to stand here and pretend that I'm Little Miss Perfect. It's not going to happen. I would spend nights crying, and I would spend nights wondering, why is this so difficult? Why am I getting these horrible comments? And I ended up loving those challenges, because throughout the time that I spent in the industry, I actually saw myself improve. And you don't notice it right away. We always kind of are in this constant cycle of, I know nothing, I'm so behind, why don't I understand this? And we don't realize the growth that we've made within ourselves. So what got me through that emotional part of it, or I think you said, what was it, monster syndrome, I think? Imposter syndrome, excuse me. Imposter syndrome was just actually sticking with the program and noticing the changes throughout the years, and you don't notice it right away. Of course.
We'll take two more questions. Sorry, I know people are coming out in the line, but then
no, it's okay. The third one, I'll answer quickly.
Perfect.
Hello, I'm Ava, and you talked about being one of the only women in the room, and I personally have also experienced that with classes in high school, being the only woman. How do you stay motivated when you're just surrounded by men?
I use that difference as motivation. It's like, okay, well, I'm different, and I want to be better, and I want to be a better version of myself, and I want to prove to others that I'm also capable. So I actually use that difference, and I keep that in mind. I don't forget about it. I don't just pretend that you're not a woman, pretend that you're not different. No, I am different, and I want to show that I'm different, and I use that to prove to others that I'm different. And it's not about, when you're proving to others, you also prove to yourself. At least that works for me. So, yeah, I just work on those challenges. Whatever I don't know, I educate myself, and that's that.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Natalie, and I'm just wondering, did you ever find it difficult to find the balance between pageantry and your job, just because they're so different? And I think it's kind of cool that you like found a way to combine them.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, of course, there was definitely a challenge there. I mean, there's people that want to book me in for an event, and it's right after work. I'm like, well, I am not dressed up in high heels. I got my steel toes on, and I'm covered in mud. But if you want me to do mud tracking, that's totally fine. So yeah, of course, there's like a massive difference. But like I don't know, I just balance it, and I mean, that's part of the persona, I guess we'll call it. But yeah, there's definitely that gap there. And how do I balance it? I don't know. I just, did I answer your question? I'm just trying to do this in a speed version. Of course there are the challenges there, but I think a lot of people in the industry actually grow to appreciate that because they see what you're doing and they see it as a good representative. You're doing it for a good cause.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Hi, my name's Amna. I was just wondering, you know how you went to college a year earlier? How did you deal with people looking down on you because of your age? You're so much younger than other people in the industry, plus you're female. So, how did you, deal with people looking down at you and your abilities due to your age?
Just remind yourself that if somebody has a problem with you or something that you can't change, which obviously your age you can't change, that's not your problem, that's their problem, So just reminding yourself that if they have an issue with you, then that's on them. And just focusing on yourself. If you focus more on yourself, then you won't notice the things around you. And if you do ever receive a negative comment, you can either ignore it or use that for improvement depending on what it is. But obviously something like your age you can't change. So I would just completely ignore it and focus on why you're there. If you're in school, you're there to learn, focus on you being there to learn. People will always find a reason to doubt you or not believe in you, whether you're the same age, same height, same everything. People will always find a reason if they're intimidated by you or just a bully. That's what happened. We have adult bullies too. It doesn't go away.
Okay, thank you.
Anyhow, if I didn't get to answer your questions, you could find me afterwards. I'm very friendly and I'll answer everything. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Ashley, and thank you also for the great questions that we got. Ashley mentioned afterward, when we're out in speed mentoring, if there were other questions, you'll be able to come and find her and chat with her one-on-one. Our next speaker is Po Tan. She has a PhD in experimental medicine and is now completing a PhD in education. Po is past president-elect of the Society of Canadian Women in Science and Technology, a nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion for women and girls in STEM, and founder of STEM Edge, Inc., an organization that specializes in designing effective STEM educational outreach strategies for a diverse range of organizations. Her aspiration is to inspire other women, especially those who share her background, to pursue careers in STEM and education without the pressure to conform to stereotypes. Please join me in welcoming Po.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to actually move around, so hopefully it doesn't interrupt. But good morning. I think it's still morning because I am from Vancouver, BC. So I'm actually 3 hours behind you. Maybe I'm still a little bit sleepy. You'll see little 3 buckets here, but please ignore that for now because we're going to do something fun. So thanks to the last speaker, a lot of what Ashley said in the last 20 minutes was I was nodding. I don't know if you were nodding, but I was yes, that was me. Yes, that was me as well. So today I'm going to tell you 3 stories, and they're personal stories of experience throughout my life. I may not look like it, but I actually have 2 kids, 14 and 10. I'm also an entrepreneur. I went into the biotech industry after my first PhD, and then after that is when I switched direction into science education. I'm still very much a scientist, and also many of the struggles and challenges that the last speaker talked about, again, I was nodding. I was oh my gosh. Well, let me first start. So my background is that my family immigrated to Vancouver. I'm originally from Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. I don't know if there's any Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia students in the audience. Put up your hand. You? Am I the only one? Can't be. Can't be. Really? Okay. I guess I'm the only Malaysian in the room. So we immigrated back when I was, I think, 12 years old. And at that time, I was the only Asian kid in my class in grade 6. It was intimidating because I tell this story because when we first arrived, the first thing I remembered was stepping out of the Vancouver airport and the air was so cold. Second thing I remembered is that my first day of class, it was my first time meeting a teacher that had orange hair. I've never seen a teacher with orange hair, other than, like on TV back home, right? And you may ask, it's like, okay, well, she was just introduced as having a PhD in sciences. Was she always into sciences? Well, no. This is where directions change. So when I was growing up, I wanted to be a singer. Oh my gosh, I cannot sing to save my life. Please don't even ask me to sing. Second thing I wanted to do was I wanted to be a teddy bear factory worker because I love teddy bears. But I guess I didn't know that didn't exist, or maybe it did exist, I don't know. And then after that, I decided, what do I actually want to do, right? And that was the time when I found sciences. And I like science because I like the questions. I like that I'm able to sort of research into things, be curious. And even though I loved science at the very beginning, I wasn't actually really good at sciences. My mom can tell you a story where she's like saying, oh my gosh, Po, you want to go into science, but then you're getting a C- in science in grade 7. Like, how are you supposed to do that, right? And a lot of times when I look back and I go, what would I actually have done if I didn't pursue a STEM career? But I did because of, I like it just because there's so many things that can touch with STEM. Like, just because you're in STEM, it doesn't mean you can't do arts. Just because you're in STEM, it doesn't mean you can't do dance, right? There's so many things that involve science, questioning, observation. So the first little nugget I want to share with you today is that out of the 3 that I want you to take back to your class, back to your home, share it, are the sort of 3 sort of secret ingredients to life, success, I guess, in quotes. First one is confidence. What does confidence mean? Well, confidence does not mean perfection. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect in everything you do. It doesn't mean that you have to have straight A's in everything. It doesn't mean that you have to get every single scholarship and every single award either. So confidence does not mean perfection. Confidence also does not mean that you're in it alone, that you have to be the strong one every single time. That when a challenge comes up, an issue comes up, that you have to be the one that's like, say, oh, I'm good, I'm okay, right? That's not confidence. Confidence is knowing that when you fall and when you falter, and then when you feel like, oh, I don't know, that was a good choice. Confidence means that you move on. You pick yourself up, and you tell yourself, that was a mistake. We all make mistakes. I've made tons of mistakes. And knowing that you can get up from it. And it's okay to cry. I've cried over mistakes, right? And it's not something where if you do it, you're like, oh, that means I'm not confident. So that's one of the key things left, confidence. Because in the STEM career industry, I was in experimental medicine, in stem cell biology, where I did research on trying to improve the prognosis of leukemic patients, okay, looking at blood stem cells. And in the industry, when you go up higher and higher, you see less and less women at that stage. Across Canada, there's the statistics out there, less than 25% of board of director members in large organizations are women. Even less than that are women who are BIPOC, okay? Like less. Think about that. If we want to talk about making a difference in this society, right, then we have to have more women at those senior board levels. But how can we get there if we are constantly being told that, because you're a woman, you got to wear your pants, or because you're a woman, you got to show up at the table more masculine. Because you're a woman, for example, the last speaker was saying, but do you know anything? You're wearing a dress, you're wearing pink. And very similar to the last speaker, I was told that, I should wear less dresses and more pants. I mean, I'm wearing pants today, but, but I chose to wear pants. I wasn't told to wear pants, right? Okay, so confidence is knowing that it is a seed inside of you when you're starting in grade 7, 8, 9, 10. Although right now it might feel that seed is like, oh, it's so small. I don't know if it's going to grow. It will grow. And I'll tell you how it grows later on. There's a big dun dun dun, right? So second part of the story is that authenticity. Why authenticity? Why does it need to be part of success? So because if you're not authentic about who you are, what you love, what you want to pursue, in the end, happiness means a totally different thing. If you're only pursuing something that's extrinsic, meaning like, I'm going to pursue something where because I want to get to that award, I want to pursue something where I want to get to that particular position, then at the end of the day, if that's not authentically who you are, that when you get there, you're going to be like, oh, that's it? I thought it was more. It's not going to feel satisfying. So what does being authentic mean? Authentic means sticking to your values. And what does sticking to your values mean? Sticking to your values means that when you are challenged in different ways, and I'm talking about right now, in grade 9, in grade 10, in grade 11, grade 12, you have your values. When you're being challenged and you're being tempted to change your values from what it is that you truly are, and when you stick to those, some people may not like it. Some people may think, but if you kind of tweak it a little bit and do it the other way, you'll get toward here. But it goes against your values. And if you choose to do that, then at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like you've totally earned it. It doesn't feel like it's totally matched what you want to do. So stick to your values, right? So first bucket, confidence. I'll have my buckets here later. Second ingredient is staying authentic and values. Now, third one is community. Now, as I look in the room here and people in the audience, I don't know if you can see me, but if you look around you right now, if you just look to your left, look to your right, they may not be your friends right now, or maybe you're looking at your friends, or maybe you're looking at future mentors, maybe you're looking at someone that you're gonna work for, or they're gonna work for you in the future, right? This is your community. Community means that you have mentors, teachers, your educators, maybe your teachers who are sitting with you right now in the audience, the panelists, the people who are speaking up here, the institute that has brought this talk together, this event together. That is your community, right? But that truly what community means is that people who want to see you succeed, even though you're at your lowest point in life. And when I say lowest point, is that this could mean that maybe your personal journey has a huge challenge. Maybe your career part has a huge challenge. So your community are made up of people who actually will be there, who want to be there, not that they have to be there, but want to be there for you when you're sort of like stumbling or when you see some challenges. And that could be your friends. That could be your family. That could be your friends that you're going to make in like 3 years. Your grade 8 or grade 9 or grade 12 teachers. Your friends around you. That's what community is. As women and girls in this area in the STEM career, is that we have to continue to uplift each other, right? Instead of seeing each other as competition, we want to see each other as collaborators, allies, because we want to build each other up. When we see an opportunity for another person, we either share the stage or move aside and give them the stage. If we know our own privilege, if we know that as a woman and I have a certain privilege at a certain place and this person doesn't, then share that, right? That's what community means. So I'll share like a couple of stories, okay? So when I was in grade 7, my confidence was like down here. It was really low. I was afraid of speaking in front of the public. I was the type where I was like, oh my God, I'd rather do anything else. I don't know, stay out in the rain or do anything else but actually speak in public, right? Having done 2 TEDx, I was like, okay, I'm good. I can do public speaking, and I actually like it. It's my way of doing things. But when I was in grade 7, I was like, oh, please. And I remember my grade 7 teacher. I still keep in touch with him today. In fact, my second TEDx talk is actually about him, dedicated to him. Because he is one of the few ones that made me feel that I am worthwhile. I have a place on this planet to make a difference. And what I'm going to do and what I'm going to say later on matters. And how did he do that? Well, it was from a project where he asked us to pick a certain topic that we liked last time. Now, a lot of you probably have heard of the movie Top Gun, right? Maybe? Yes, a lot of nods. Okay, but have you watched the first Top Gun, not the second one? Oh my gosh, you haven't? Okay, you have to. He still looks cute in that movie, okay? So for the first one, when I watched it, I'm a huge Tom Cruise crush fan until this day. I decided to pick the topic of aviation. I am not in aviation today. I'm a cell biologist and geneticist. And I picked that topic because I'm like, well, I've always been interested in planes. So I picked the topic of learning about, like how jets fly and things like that. And one part of the project is to build a model of a plane. Now, my family is not there are weeks that we struggle with things. So I would have to gather sort of recycled materials to build this model. And after I built it, it was out of bamboo skewer sticks. It was out of kind of recycled tissue paper type of thing. I kind of tried to paint it, but then the tissue paper broke. But anyways, kind of somewhat resembled a plane, right? I brought this plane, to my class. I felt so horrible about it. I didn't even want to hand it in because I thought this thing is such a mess. What's my teacher going to think? So I handed it in thinking that he's probably going to give me a C or something, or it's probably not that good. So I gave it, and I gave my report and everything, so I gave it. So I didn't say anything, and then he was like, okay, everybody gather it. Next morning I came back, and I kid you not, I walked in, and I see all these little things hanging on the ceiling, right? I looked up, and there was my plane. I looked up, and I was like, wow, my plane is on the ceiling. The plane that I thought belonged in the trash the day before. So I looked up, and I go, this is what it means to build confidence, and this is what it means to have a community that supports you, that cares. So from that day forth, Mr. Kashima, my grade 7 teacher, has been with me to this day and still sort of mentoring me and teaching me till today. That's the first story. The last story I'm going to tell you is to end this piece, where I'm going to do some balls and use these little plastic balls here, is the importance of, like I said, community. So community is my community is made up of my best friend, whom I've been friends for since grade 8. And this is a long time ago. My community is also made up of my teachers in high school, specifically my English teacher, English 12 teacher. And at the time, it was really tough. I didn't like English 12. I don't know how many of you like English 12. Or maybe some of you do like it. Okay, how many of you do love English 12? English lit, Shakespeare. I don't see no hands in the audience. I totally understand, right? Totally understand. Okay, so when I took it, I was like, oh my gosh, English 12. But the thing is that we all needed to go to university, right? It's kind of required subject. Okay, so when I took it, and my teacher at the time, I really like her. She drilled us hard. But at the time, I was like, oh, why does the teacher have to make it so hard for us? English is already so hard. Writing is already so hard. Processing in my brain and putting on a paper is already so hard. Why is she telling us that she's going to evaluate us based on university level marking? Why? Is she out there to just purposely get us in grade 12, to purposely make our lives, miserable? That's what I sort of believe, right? I see some people yeah, maybe they want to make my life miserable. But I kid you not, it was not only until 5 years later into university when I realized, she wanted her students to succeed. And this is the way that, that she was going to do it. It didn't look like something that was very caring, I guess, at the time. But to this day, I still thank her to this day, because without sort of that mentorship and guidance and building that community, and after that, I still went back to her after I started university. I go, okay, how is this paper? Is this a terrible paper? How can I improve, right? So that's your community. It's your teachers, your mentors, people in the room that believe in you and who really want to see you succeed, even when you're not. Now, community only works if we help each other, right? So I have 3 buckets here. So I talked about confidence, building confidence, and I talked about community, okay? And then the last one I talked about authenticity, staying true to your values. Now, I want to premise everything that I said is that life happens, and sometimes when life happens, it's really tough to sometimes stay confident, right? You start to question yourself, but that's okay. This is where your community comes in and tells you, you know, it's tough right now, but stick with it. I'm here with you. Let's cry together. Maybe that's not the thing for you, or maybe you feel like that's not the thing for you, but let's keep going together. And this is where it leads you to, I'm going to stay true to myself. I'm not going to sway. And then leads back to slowly building your confidence more and more. Now, can you imagine if Mr. Kashima, my grade 7 teacher, and my English 12 teacher at the time, and then other people in university, if they had only kept that to themselves? So it would be me, so if I were mentoring someone, and I was only helping one person catch. It's hard to catch, sorry. And then let's just say I'm helping another person go with community. I'm just going to help like one person, okay? And then the other one I'm going to help, it's just one person. If you see, like, it's only one by one, right? There's no sort of ripple effect, okay? But can you imagine a community in this room right now where we all uplift each other, we all help each other build our confidence, our authenticity? Can you imagine how big that community is? Can you imagine how big this community and also how effective this community is if we do that? Then when you get this, that's when competition becomes collaboration, competition becomes allyship, competition becomes partnership. And we no longer see each other as competition, okay? So let's imagine that. I would like a student in junior level, like grade 9, to come down here with me to help me spread this. And someone in the senior level. Who wants to come down with me? Come here, I'm gonna share the stage with you. Okay, just come, yes. Come, one more. Okay, so you're in grade? 11. Okay, 11, and I need a grade 8 or 9. Okay, yeah, come down. So your name is? Megan, come on down, Megan. And we have? Goshi? Okay, let's see. Oh, Goshi, yes. So can you imagine, like, okay, now I've shared this with you. Now I'm going to share my mentorship with confidence, authenticity, and community with Megan. And I'm going to share that with Goshi as well. And then can you imagine if Goshi, in grade 9, right? In grade 9, yeah? She's like, you know, I'm feeling down and out. I need to talk to someone. Throw those balls into the. Yeah. And someone catches it, and they're like, I'm going to help you with community. I'm going to help you with confidence. I'm going to help you with authenticity. And then Megan, who's in grade 11, she's like, you know, I also need some support. And then she passes it on to Goshi. Hopefully you can, pass it on or catch it or whatever. Right? And then Goshi's like, oh, you know, we can totally chat together. And then you pass it on that way. So you see how it could be. Now, then, I want you to throw this all into the audience. And now I want the audience to sort of pass it around to each other. And I want you to imagine the community that you're building right now. Oh, that's really hard, sorry. So pass it back if you don't catch any, okay? So this is authenticity. Oh, here, take this one, yeah. Yeah. So pass it back. Good job. So we are creating community right now with each other that you don't know, right? Did you fit it? Yeah? Okay, great. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So wait, stay here. Oh, no, stay. Okay, so today's talk and presentation, I did it for all of you. All of you in the audience, this talk is for you. This presentation is for you. The stories that I've shared is for you. It's for Megan, it's for Goshi, and it's for everyone like you. So remember, build confidence with people that care about you, that want to see you succeed. Stay true to your values, be authentic, and create that community. Thank you.
Thank you.
you so much.
Thank you.
So we have time for maybe one or two quick questions if people want to make their way down quickly.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Delaney, and my question for you is, you mentioned how at the beginning you went and studied pretty much all kind of variations of STEM because you loved learning and you loved exploring different subjects that were a vast variety. So I was wondering how you found your authenticity in trying to find a way to narrow down what it is you loved and wanted to study.
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah. I did not find it when I was your age. Because at your age, I was still a little bit lost and I was still exploring. And yes, staying true to your values is hard, especially when you're at an age where you feel like you need to do everything and please everybody. I think the part is please everybody and please everyone in your community. So that comes the more that you live life, you know. So whether you pursue a STEM career or a non-STEM career, arts career, life will sort of bring you these values of like, what is it that you want to stay true to and how you want to stay true to it. And the part when I realized, it was not until at the end of my bachelor's degree, because that was when I started to really have the confidence to sort of ask myself, what is it that I really want to contribute to this world at the end of the day, and how I want to contribute to it. So that's sort of how I did it, yeah.
Hi, my name is Shazal, and my question for you is, how do you keep yourself motivated to stay in an industry or a program, obviously that's more like male-dominated, as like I myself like leaning towards like engineering or like more of the math department, but again, like a lot of opinions from other people have me kind of like second-guessing myself. So what would be your advice to kind of go through with my choice, like original choice to go into the more competitive programs?
Oh, gee, I think one word, community. I always go back to that because I found that my community are the people that, like I said, want to see you succeed, right? And when I became an entrepreneur, after I worked in the biotech for a while, I actually launched out on my own to be an entrepreneur. I got so much naysayers, it's not even funny. Like people would tell me, oh, you're actually leaving a job that's very cushy to pursue this. Why? Second is, you know, being a woman as an entrepreneur, no one's gonna fund you, or no one's gonna, you know, it's gonna be really hard to succeed. Or other naysayers would be like, if you tell them, I told them, they would say, oh, did you know that 90% of businesses fail, and then they leave it as that. Right? You're like, okay, does that mean that you're here or not, you know? In the beginning, it was tough to hear. It was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, right? Like the self-doubt thing you're talking about. It's like, maybe I should just kind of go back to my job and not do this. I'm very fortunate to have a spouse that's really supportive. He was my boyfriend before. We've been together since '96. He was very supportive, and then later on became my husband. And having a really supportive spouse really helps as well. Like it's really a person who believes in you that you can share everything with. And then it's about surrounding yourself where people tell you that I do see you doing this, and I do see you in engineering, I do see you in math, and you need help, okay, in certain things, I can reach out, I can help reach out, and then, you know, if you're struggling towards things. Most of the time, I find like it's not like a career challenge, it's an inside challenge. It's like your inside head challenge. So surround yourself with the positive sayers. I got rid of all my naysayers. And I can tell you now that some of the naysayers were my friends for 10 years, for a whole decade, who was with me in university, some were in high school, but they're no longer my friends. But life changes, right? Like, just because you were friends for 10 years doesn't mean that you have to be friends like forever type of thing. So, yeah. Next question, yes.
Hi, I'm Guashi.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for helping me.
Yes. My biggest question, like I'm in grade 9 right now,
Yeah.
high school starting. I'm trying to do as much as things I can.
Yes.
My biggest thing is like I'm a little bit lacking in confidence, I think so. And I want to keep boosting it. How would you say is your biggest tip, even when you were in the younger years, when you were like struggling to like public speaking, what was your biggest tip that you remembered every time you were public speaking? Or what was your biggest like confidence tip that you remember that helps you every time?
Put yourself in uncomfortable situations. So mine was like public speaking, and I would seek out in high school. I don't know about your high school, but in my high school, we would have like clubs and things like that, and then we could also have the opportunity to start our own club. So I actually started a club with two of my other best friends called the Environment Club, and we actually had to go to each teacher's classroom and talk about, this is our club, and we want to have some members, and this is what we're doing on Wednesdays at lunch hour, and it was totally uncomfortable, but I made myself do it. But again, I had my friends with me. One really neat piece of like a quote that I can remember, I didn't quote this, but people say, no one succeeds alone. You can't. We are a community of people. We are very relational beings. So when you think about success, and I don't want you to think about success as in like, I'm going to get the award, I'm going to be CEO, whatever. Success means you are happy with yourself. Your family is happy with you. You are happy with your family. Your health is good. Because at the end of the day, you could have the best STEM career, CEO level. If your health is compromised, you go and your family doesn't talk to you, your kids don't talk to you, what does it mean? Right? So, yeah. But that's something like put yourself in uncomfortable situations.
100%. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, last question. Thanks.
Hi there, I'm Manvi, and I was honestly quite intrigued by the connection you made with confidence and resilience, and how confidence is not a product of perfectionism.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if you've ever dealt with a challenge where you felt that your confidence was wavered due to a mistake, and if so, how did you recover from that?
Yes, I did. Like I said, I'm much older than all of you here, so I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. And I think when we label things as mistakes, it automatically has a negative connotation to it, right? And in the end, there's a spectrum of quote-unquote mistakes. Yes, some that you make does have sequential consequences. Some that you make is like, it's okay, right? No one's gonna die in the room type of thing, And in the end, those mistakes, I would like everyone to change your mindset, is that don't think about these as mistakes. Because mistakes means that I can never make it again, I have to be perfect. And what did I say? It's not about perfection, right? It's that the mistakes that you think you made is your stumbling point in learning. How many of you in the audience, have taken like, maybe you're about to take calculus class or math class, and you're like, oh my God, I totally like bombed that test because I chose to watch a soap opera and I didn't, study. So that was my example. I was telling my kids the other day is that in grade 12, we had provincial exams then. I don't know if you still have provincial exams, or maybe not, like final exams type of thing. And it's like your year-end exam, the big cumulative exam, right? And I remember it's in grade 12, biology class. I was so into Days of Our Lives, the soap opera. I don't know if you've heard of it. Some of you are laughing, right? It's kind of like Young and the Restless, all that kind of stuff, okay? So I was super into it, and the show was like happening an hour before my exam, okay? I did not have a car, so I had to leave my house with like the bus and everything. But I was so determined to know what Hope was gonna do, in that soap opera, in that episode. So what I did was I stayed, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna catch it, and I can make it, right? Well, no, I didn't. I was late for my provincial exam for like 15, 20 minutes, okay? Because I was running. The teacher looked at me. The teacher's like, "You're late? Poe's late? How?" And then I went in there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna like finish this exam. I'm so flustered, right? I sat down and it wasn't my best exam. And I went into biology, right? I remind you, I was in animal phys in my first degree. So in my life at that time, I can remember it's like the end of the world type of thing. But now that you look back, I look back, it's not a mistake. Sure, it's like a lapse of judgment at the time. My decision to know what Hope wanted to do in Days of Our Lives versus my biology, provincial exam wasn't the best, decision. But at the end of the day is that you live through that life, whichever mistakes that you made, and you take it as a learning point. It's not a point where you stumble, make a mistake, you're like, I'm never gonna do that again. You can't. We're all humans, right? You can never say, I'll never do it again, because that's unrealistic. So that's part of being authentic, is to be realistic with yourself as well. So yeah, thanks for the question. But
Thank you so much.
thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Po. Already some amazing questions. We're now ready to start our panel discussion. So I'd like to invite the panelists to come up and join me on the stage. This is a moment now, if you feel like you need to get some movement in your body and just sort of stand up and stretch, you can do that while we settle in. Okay, just give yourself a little stretch break. In this session, we're going to dive a little deeper into some of the different career paths. Our panelists are going to be sharing a little bit about their story. You can take a look in your program while you're kind of stretching, just to take a look at their experience, okay? But I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves. All right, folks, we'll get settled back down. To start the session off, I'm going to invite each of the panelists to introduce themselves. I'm going to moderate the conversation, but already we've had some great questions. If you've got one in your mind, now's the time to hop up so we don't have to wait a long time for people to kind of come down the stairs. So hop up now and be ready with your questions. If you've got some now, you can see the list of names in your program. As we start to form that line, let's get started with some introductions. Nanette, would you like to begin?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's my great pleasure and privilege being here today, and nice to meet all these wonderful young women. So I'm Nanette Su. I'm a senior manager at Deloitte, specializing in actuarial science work. I studied actuarial science at Western University and then obtained my master's degree in statistics from the University of Waterloo. So I'm sure a lot of you are wondering what is actuarial science and what do actuaries do, right? So if you think of a fortune teller trying to predict your future using a crystal ball, obviously actuaries, we're human, we don't have superpowers. Instead, we are equipped with knowledge and skills in mathematics, statistics, predictive analytics, and we use softwares and technologies to try to calculate or estimate the likelihood of future events, mostly related to risk or adverse events. For example, illness, death, car accidents, fire, flooding, cyber attack. What are the financial impacts? What are the likelihood of these adverse event happening? So, and then subsequently, we help individuals, families, organizations, communities to manage these risks proactively. And looking back, I made two important decisions, life-changing decisions for myself. One was deciding to come to Canada for university program studies while I was in China. And then the second one was switching my university undergraduate major from business to actuarial science. And to be honest, I'm not sure whether I made the best choice for myself, but I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying where I am, and I'm happy with being here today. So I think that's what matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Christina, do you want to?
Hi, I'm Christina. I from Smith Falls, Ontario. I don't know if anyone here knows where that is. It's close to Ottawa. I did my undergraduate degree at Queen's University in Kingston. in a Bachelor of Science. I majored in biology. It is also where I faced my first failure, which was really interesting when you're applying to certain universities, and something that I would definitely encourage that you research is you're not guaranteed your major at Queen's in the sciences. So when you first start, you go into general science, and then you actually apply for your major. I originally had wanted to go into the life sciences. I was very into, medical and medical field mindset at the time, and I maybe had a little bit too much fun in first year, and I didn't have the grades to get into life sciences. So I ended up pursuing biology. I did 4 years there, best 4 years of my life, probably. And then I spent about a year, almost 2 years, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. Happy to elaborate on that. I eventually ended up applying and getting into pharmacy school at the University of Waterloo. So I moved to Kitchener, and I've been here ever since. After graduating, and that's a co-op program, which is really great. After graduation, I started a residency at Sanofi Pasteur, which is a pharmaceutical company. Specifically, Sanofi Pasteur is their vaccine division. And then I made, a big life decision and ended up pursuing a job in hospital pharmacy practice. So I'm currently working at Cambridge Memorial Hospital. I've been there since 2019. I started as a maternity leave in the intensive care unit, which was like a really huge learning curve. And of course, COVID happened, and I worked in one of the most intense places you can work during COVID. I then spent about a year and a half working in general medicine and telemetry, which is monitors like heart rates and rhythms, and it's where a lot of people, if you've had a heart attack, they'll be in that unit. And then I did another stint in ICU for another mat leave, and now I'm just waiting for my own maternity leave. So that's where I'm at right now.
Alicia.
Awesome. It's so great to be here with you all today. My name is Alicia Richens, and I work as a sustainable impact strategist, helping organizations really assess and track and communicate their social, economic, and environmental impact. Academically, I did not go to high school in Canada. I actually moved here for university. So our high school experiences might be different, but similar to what Ashley was saying, I was a top student who had no idea what she wanted to study and what she wanted to pursue. So when I came to Canada, I attended York University. I started in economics because I thought, well, maybe this is the thing that's going to teach me about how the world works and how, everything comes together, because I just wanted to be able to study everything. I didn't want to have to choose. But then in my first year, I ended up taking a social economy course that just really blew my mind and showed me how, the way that we do things and the way that we not just study, but practice economics, from the way we distribute resources and decide how things should be structured in society, isn't actually inevitable. These are choices that we made. And so then I went back to my economics class, and I would have professors say that economics is mathematics. We did a lot of calculus, a lot of statistics. But really, I hope in 2024 it's not too controversial to say that econ is a social science, because there are these really core assumptions that underpin exactly how we distribute resources, how we decide, the right scale of our economies, how we decide how we use different resources and how we're impacting our ecosystems around us. And so after a lot of turmoil and a very wavering path in university, I ended up with a double major in economics and social science so that I could understand the thing and criticize the thing. And in my graduate studies of ecological economics, it was all about starting to imagine how we could do it differently. And this is where, I would say econ, starts to embrace more of the physical and natural sciences, because when we think about ecological economics, we're understanding the economy as a social construct, which is part of this biosphere that we live on. And so we have these very real planetary boundaries to live within. And so from that perspective, how are we then managing our resources as humans? And I'd say in my work now, working with organizations, it's really about bringing that knowledge to the grassroots so that we start to implement that and really criticize our own, or not criticize, examine our own assumptions and have some of the data science to back, what we're saying we're doing in our communities and ecosystems.
Hi, everyone. My name is Haley Mayer. I'm a PhD candidate in mechanical engineering at U of T. And my engineering career kind of started in high school when I found I liked a lot of subjects, but I wasn't amazing at one of them. And that's kind of how I stumbled on the degree of biomedical engineering. So I did my degree in biomedical engineering at the University of Guelph, where I got to study mechanics, anatomy, biomechanics, signal processing, a bunch of different subjects. And I truly loved it a lot until fourth year, I got the chance to take a course called Introduction to Robotics. And that's where I fell in love with robotics. And it came time where I was reflecting on the potential careers I could do. And I realized I need to do more school. So I took a year off and kind of did some soul searching. And I visited different universities across Ontario and landed on U of T. So at U of T, I work at the Hospital for Sick Children in the Sigeti Lab. And I'm also co-supervised in the Diller Microrobotics Lab. So my research kind of focuses on magnetic micro-robots and their use in surgical robotics. So that's kind of what I do on my day-to-day. But I enjoy also doing outreach with the Robotics Institute in the Robotics Leadership Program, where we our goal is to introduce robotics to high school and elementary school students as a way to teach coding. So, yeah.
Awesome. So I'll invite you guys again to come up and be ready to ask your questions. But maybe I'll kick things off. I kind of noticed that for many of you, you started one way and then there was like a tweak along the way. So it changed a little the direction, or your focus changed with time. How did you know when you were on the right path? Like, I think for many students, they may feel, how am I going to know when I'm in the right place?
Yeah, that's hilarious, because like when you said, I'm still not sure if I've picked the right career. I'm like, me neither. And it's funny, like I also see like myself in you too, because when I was in high school and my entire life, I'm like, I like a lot of different things. And I'm okay at a lot of different things. So how am I supposed to decide like one direction to go in? And yeah, it's tough. Like, I don't think that, and it's not to be discouraging, it's hard to find the perfect thing, but, and you may not find something that's like perfectly for you, but I think that there's always something that you can enjoy and take out of any direction that you do end up going in. And I think it's important just to at some point commit to it and find what you're passionate about within that area. And it may change over time, and that's okay too.
I'd like to add to that a bit, because I know that it is difficult, but one of the key things I've learned is the importance of exploration, right? So talking about having multiple interests, like I made sure I took advantage of all the electives. Yeah, I'm gonna take a philosophy class, and yeah, I play the violin, so I'm gonna join the orchestra, and I'm gonna sign up for Model UN. Like, really explore everything that's available to you, because it's only in that kind of testing things out that you're going to be able to get to that spot. For me, it happened in grad school. So I'm doing all of this research and I feel like I'm just like in this bubble by myself. Nobody's going to care about what I'm studying. And then I ended up doing a summer internship placement at the Inter-American Development Bank. And I remember coming back and talking to my advisor and being like, finally, I know that there's a job for the kind of work I want to do. So, just really exploring and trying things out is the only way that you're gonna get to that point where you start to feel like, okay, like, yes, this is for me, and I love it.
Yeah, like what I was really fortunate about with the pharmacy degree was that it was a co-op program. And in my third co-op, I took a really big chance on going into a position within the pharmaceutical industry, which is not, it's becoming much more popular now, but no one knew what this job was and what it entailed at my school. And I ended up discovering something that I had no idea, like it really was like an option, that it existed. So I definitely agree with that. Like you explore different things and don't get too zoned in on like one direction that you're going in. And it's a lot more difficult, like when you graduate and you're in the work field and you're trying to pay off loans and, progress your life, it's harder to explore because you are you have financial commitments, you might have a family. So really take that opportunity to explore while you're in school. It's definitely the best time to do it. Less like risk, and you're way more free to be able to do those things.
Yeah, I'll add something quickly. I see the long line. I'll try to be.
No problem.
I'll try to be quick. So to me personally, I took the path because the original path didn't work that well for me. And when things don't work well and you struggle and you don't enjoy what you're doing, you just explore other opportunities. And luckily, I had the support from my family, my friends, and for me to make the life-changing decisions. For example, right, the two I mentioned. So yeah, I think community very important. The brave and courage of taking risks is very important. So just like at your age, try as many things as possible, discover your passion, and you'll find it. You'll know which one to take.
Awesome. Yeah. Your question.
Hi, my name is Ruby, and I know a lot of you mentioned the obstacles that you face as a woman in STEM and also your self-discovery journey. So I just wanted to ask, what motivated you and helped you feel worthy of pursuing STEM despite all the stereotypes and stigmas that surrounded against like women in STEM?
It's a good, tough question.
Yeah, you made us think. Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking back to what Poe was saying about authenticity and really kind of knowing yourself and surrounding yourself with community that supports you, whether that's your parents, other extended family, your friends in school and class, to just really help you feel that sense of like, I know who I am and I know what I'm about and I know where my values are, and so I am worthy of pursuing whatever the heck it is I decide to pursue, and they'll just have to deal with me when I get there.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Shazal, and what I wanted to ask was, being women in STEM, obviously it's very compelling, it's a hardworking industry as well. Has there ever been a time that you either made a mistake or people look down on you because of you being a woman in STEM? And if so, how did you recover from it, or how did you kind of essentially recover? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I can try first. So yeah, I made tons of mistakes. I had many failures in my life. Some are small, some are big. I think what it matters is, regardless what gender you are, what race you are, don't give up. And then know what your goal is, commit to it, and then keep trying, right? We're lucky we're in today's world, where there's so much emphasis in diversity, inclusive culture. Lots of places offer, support for women, for anyone who needs help. So, yeah, I think just continue demonstrate your value, continue knowing what you would want to do, what your goals are, and then just continue also promoting equality and diversity, and also help yourself and also help the others, right? And yeah, try to find a spot for for yourself and for other people that, they think they need help as well. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Hello, my name is Priyanshi, and I want to go into cybersecurity, and I have everyone wants to go into a specific field, but there's also some issues that I've seen people face back in my home country, and I just want to ask how you incorporate topics that you're passionate about and things that you want to fix in society with your own job and occupation, and what the first step you would take to work towards fixing something and incorporating it into your job as well.
Another good, tough questions. I love these today. They're great. What comes to mind for me is the fact that, actually, I want to start over. So when you're about to enter, advanced studies, to really start to pursue opportunities to ask that question, to think about, okay, I have these set courses maybe that are teaching me, this technical know-how. Where am I going to get to learn about the underlying assumptions here and how these things might impact other things? And that's going to come from some of the social sciences, don't hide from social science classes and poli-sci classes that are going to, equip you with the way to start to make those arguments. So that's when you're out there in the field, now you have the educational grounding of knowing what you're talking about and the confidence to say, actually, guys, this way we've been doing things isn't right, and this is how I know it, and I have the confidence to articulate this today.
Yeah, also in our organization or companies or schools, right, there are lots of great examples, women leaders, women great researchers that we can look up to and, discuss things with them. So I think, yeah, just don't be afraid to approach anyone in your school or in your community, right, to ask for advice, look up for examples, and then try to, yeah, and then you'll find your way to succeed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep going.
Good morning, my name is Anupreet, and I just want to know, having an education in STEM is in itself very stressful. On top of that, being a female in a male-dominated department in either any of the STEM categories. So how did you regulate and motivate yourself on days where you kind of doubted your abilities, felt just kind of mentally drained, or didn't really feel very smart in those days? How did you regulate and keep yourself going?
I'd say from someone who's suffered from imposter syndrome all throughout my academic career, one thing, like Post said before, community is huge. So surrounding yourself with people who support you and believe in you can really help you on the days you're feeling down, but also taking time and setting boundaries. So taking time for self-care and to do things that bring you joy so you can refill your ability to help others and be successful in your studies. That's what I recommend.
Yeah, I think it's important to find people that you can connect with and relate to. So when you have those tough days, they can help build you back up a little bit, because everyone's gonna have those days where you doubt yourself, or maybe you did mess up and you really need that someone to help you get your confidence back. So definitely the self-care. For me, I think, so when you're in more of the medicine field, it is tough. There is a lot of imposter syndrome, and sometimes you feel like you may not overcome that for several years. Medicine is a lot of years of experience, and getting going through so many clinical situations that eventually you do start building that confidence. So you kind of sometimes have to go easy on yourself, and sometimes it just takes some time. One thing that I did for myself when I started hospital practice, because there was a massive learning curve from when I went from school into real-world pharmacy practice, I started an Instagram account, and I would post educational content. In the process of that, I would be doing a lot of research in order to make sure that my posts were accurate and informative. And in the process, I was learning things that were helpful to me. And I think a lot of the time I don't have time to do that at work. So that was a lot of my like own time, but gaining that knowledge allowed me to also be more confident. So you sometimes just have to do the work to be more confident. You can't just expect I'm gonna know everything and not do any work, and especially if it doesn't end when you get into the work field. So you may be done school, but you're not done learning. So just remembering that may mean that you're working outside of work, putting some extra hours in. It does get easier. When I first started, I would come in an hour or two early. I may stay late, and that's dwindled significantly over even just 5 years. So yeah, sometimes you have to put work in to build that confidence and that knowledge. It's not gonna just happen instantly when you join the workforce.
Yeah, I just want to add, perception is a big thing, right? As what our Miss Canada mentioned, we're women, we wear pink, so what? So-and-so is the CEO. Oh, but there's comment, but she's a woman. Okay, why do you even make that comment, right? I remember when I was in high school, that was like more than 20 years ago, I went to a convenience store, buy a pen, and then the cashier, when I was paying, the cashier said to me, yeah, study well, and then you can be a very good secretary. Well, deep inside, I'm sure you mean well. I'm sure, yeah, like you wish a good future for me, but why can't I just be a secretary, why can't I be a boss, right? So there are a lot of perceptions out there, still, unfortunately, until today, perception still exists, gender gaps still exist. That's why we need you guys, right? You are our future. So let's just continue, again, right, demonstrate our values and, bridge the gap. So, yeah, thank you for your question.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Matea, and I was just wondering how you decided you could handle going to post-secondary school, like it's a long time after high school to be going to school for.
Is it like you could do a 2-year program and still be very successful?
Yeah, I'm looking into engineering though, and I was just wondering how you decided that you could do like 4 or 5 years in university.
What are you worried about exactly?
Well, school is like a lot of work, and it's a lot of time, and you won't get a job for a while, or at least not like a well-paying job. And I was just wondering if you like had an idea of where you were going after post-secondary.
I would say, as someone who's in it right now, it is a lot of time, but the nice thing about grad school is you get a lot of variety into your day-to-day, so you can go and do co-ops at different places, try out different jobs. They have different career fairs multiple times. You can see throughout your entire career, like your interests change in grad school, so it's nice to know that you're not put in a box. Like by doing grad school, you've opened up a lot more doors, and just because you're doing grad school in engineering doesn't mean you'll find a career or choose a career after in engineering. It teaches you a lot of other skills in terms of communication or knowledge translation that can help build you into any direction you really choose.
Like I know when I started pharmacy school, I'd been working at Rexall. And the prospects of jobs wasn't looking that great. It didn't look that great all throughout school. But for whatever reason, I went into it. And I was very worried. I think a lot of my classmates were worried about getting a job. And I don't think that there's like a single unemployed person. I do think it's important that you research what program you're going to do and what the job prospects look like. But at the same time, like, if it's a 4-year program like engineering is, so much can change between now and then. I think it's important that you like what you're going to go into. You're not gonna, it might be a little bit miserable. If you can find a co-op program where you're making a little bit of money and gaining experience, co-op programs, I know maybe aren't like widely accessible, and I don't know what it's like for engineering, but that may help financially, but then also like your job prospects, because you'll build connections throughout your degree. So I wouldn't worry, but then I would also do research into like what program you'd be applying for. And then maybe 4 years isn't for you. Maybe you want to do a shorter program and get into the workforce earlier, and that's okay too. I think there's like a lot of, not that I know them that well, but there's probably a lot of good jobs that you can do that are just 2-year programs, and you can still be incredibly successful and make good money if that's what you're worried about as well.
I just wanted to add something really quickly. I know it's not really my turn to talk, but I like to talk. I actually my program was a 3-year program and then a co-op opportunity. So I don't know if that's a lot of time or a little bit of time. It's all about perspective. For me, I wanted in and out as quick as I can get it. And I found that I got a lot of value out of my co-op opportunity. And I feel like your co-op opportunity is like what really, really shapes you. Because we can all have good grades on paper, but then in real life, that your grades don't always help. Actually, a lot of the things that I learned in school, for me personally, didn't necessarily apply to what was in the field. So you don't need to have, 8 years of education or, this sort of PhD and that sort of PhD. You need to have the right mindset and the other skills like confidence, social skills, common sense, things like that. So I just think that that's really important. Another thing I wanted to mention is you kind of touched on being concerned with your pay when entering the actual workforce. When you first get a job, you want to get a job that is an entry-level position. You don't want to be getting the top-paying job right off the bat. You don't want to be getting the most senior role right off the bat because you're going to be getting discouraged very quickly. You have a lot more responsibility, a lot more liability. You want to have that entry-level position and build on your experience. So sometimes that does mean taking the lower-paying job and then proving to yourself and to others why you deserve a higher-paying job. So I just wanted to mention that. You don't need to be in school forever. If you need to for whatever reason, that's fine. And you don't need to have the highest-paying job right out of school. It's actually, in my opinion, better to have an entry-level position and grow on that. I will not interrupt again.
That's okay. I just don't want to disappoint people who might be standing. We probably are only going to have time for about 3 more questions. So I just wanted to alert that. But let's move on to the next question.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Malika, and I was wondering that since STEM fields can be really difficult and it can be a lot to take on, how do you guys effectively time manage and deal with procrastination to make sure you can keep up with everything?
I turned that soap opera right off.
Yeah, I think, so I'm in the consulting firms, right? I have a lot of clients I need to manage, and I have my own family, 2 kids, and I have, senior parents, have health issues. So there are actually a lot of things going on, and there are a lot of competing priorities. So I think one is you need to know your priorities, list things out, right? And then see where the gaps are. And then ask for help, right? Communicate and manage expectations. And then if there are really gaps I cannot cover, then I need to ask my colleagues to fill me in, or ask my husband to take care of my kids like this morning. So yeah, like you're not alone, and you're in the community. So just don't be afraid to get help and communicate. Communication, very important, yeah.
Yeah, during pharmacy school, when I graduated and I took my grad photos, I made a fake certificate, and I put 2 of my best friends' names on there. One of them happens to be Malika as well, crediting them for graduating because you will not be able to do everything and study everything and know every single ounce of information that you get in school by yourself. My experience in pharmacy school was very much find those close friends and divide the work and divide and conquer, and we gained so much more education doing it that way, because it is sometimes really, really difficult to get everything done. And then I completely agree about priorities. You're not going to be able to do everything and be super successful in all areas. It sucks. Like every day I'm like, oh, I wish I want to do more reading before I go to bed. Oh, like I want to like exercise every day. Oh, like I want to, you know, there's all these things. And I'm like, I keep having to remind myself, I'm not going to be able to do it all. You have to pick what you, like pick a few things and then just really focus on those.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Claire. I guess this kind of goes along with the question that was just asked, but I was wondering if you had any insight on, like, I know in high school it's really hard to like balance things, and like especially with sports and school and social, and I'm sure that holds through into like the professions that you guys have chosen. But I was just wondering if you had any insight to like balancing and choosing your priorities.
From a work perspective, if at a job, you can always push or look towards your supervisor. I find when you're working for multiple people, it's hard to balance what activities or priorities you should put first in that perspective. So asking people you're working with how they would order it. And it's also a good way to then communicate and let other people know all the other jobs you're doing at the same time. Because I think some people forget sometimes you're not only working for them, you have other commitments outside and inside school. So it's keep communication open, block your time. That's what I recommend.
Yeah, and sometimes people who gravitate towards science, very type A, lots of perfectionism. And sometimes you're gonna have to learn over time to like let go of that. And you're not gonna be able to do every project, every single thing to perfection, because it will slow you down. So sometimes you're gonna have to learn to let go. I don't know if that's at all your personality, but yeah, sometimes you just have to not go to the T for everything if you wanna get everything done in a day.
Yeah, that reminds me of a quote, never let perfect become the enemy of the good. Good enough is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
My name is Serena. My question is, have you ever had a passion for the arts or humanities and felt that you had to sacrifice that passion for a more practical career in STEM? And if you did, how did you come to terms with that?
Yes. How did I come to terms with that? I think making time for both in my own unique way. So while my studies were in one thing, like I mentioned, I play the violin, so I made sure to like join the orchestra. So at least, you know, one of my courses got me into the arts. When I didn't have time or space in my course schedule for orchestra, you know, maybe I'd join the choir, show choir, and we'd have rehearsals once a week. So just kind of like keeping those little pieces of the art still there to me was really important. And now I'm at an exciting time in my career where I'm starting to even pull them all together as I get into more climate storytelling work. And so, yeah, there's definitely possibility to blend them all. You're not going to be able to do everything all at once. And it's just about like, what's the snippet of the arts and humanities that I can have that's going to like, you know, fortify me through everything else. And then as you start to explore and experience different things, you'll start to understand, okay, this is my unique way of bringing it together. If you decide to bring it together, one might end up just being a hobby, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's about, you know, your lived experience, your human experience, and making sure that you have time and space for all of the above.
This isn't my story to share. Sorry, Nanette. Okay. One of my best friends started off in the sciences at Queen's, was very like kind of thrown into, you know, medicine, science. And, but she always had an artistic flair, always drawing, super creative. And she actually ended up in like art conservation. So she blended her science and her interest in science with, I think she restores like paper in the arts and like in history. And so it is possible to find those, but there's such unique careers that it's really important that you're doing events like this and learning about these things and hearing about them. And maybe you'll find or come across someone who's done something that blends with the things that you're interested in.
Thank you. Yeah, just wanted to add, yeah, just make sure you keep your interests outside of work, outside of, you know, study, right? You can play music, you can do arts. For actuaries, right, there are a lot of like hockey teams, soccer teams, badminton teams, ping pong teams outside of work, like my fellow actuarial colleagues, they have these weekly events to go to, and as actuaries, we calculate probability, so we like to play poker, even though we know the odds of winning is not that great, but we just like it, right? So just make sure you have fun, right? Work hard, play hard, that's very important.
You can also bring your art skills into your job too. Like someone who grew up, my mom's an artist, so I loved being creative, fine arts drawing. And now when I write papers, I personally get to illustrate and draw the figures for the papers I write. And these are valuable skills that not everyone around you might have. So you can have a bit of creative directive in helping others design figures or experiments. So just know that your art skills are definitely valued, even in a STEM career.
We have time for one last question. Sorry for those that stood so long.
Hi, so my name is Alicia, and a few of you mentioned that you either came from other places to go to school here or took a year off and then went back to school. So I'm going to be going to Japan to study for a year and then coming back right into university. How would you guys say, or how difficult was it to go back into school or adjust to a new school environment?
Depends on how fun Japan is. You might not want to go back to school.
Yeah, I think it's adaptability, right? Like, again, yeah, you need to know your goal, what your goals are, what you want to achieve, and then, yeah, what's your purpose of going to Japan, and what's your purpose coming back, right? You need to ask yourself that kind of questions. Maybe you don't have to make any decisions now, but just, ask yourself what's your passion, why you want to do this, why you decide to do that, and where you want to be, and then you'll find the answer eventually. That's my advice.
If you're super motivated, you probably won't have a problem. I took almost 2 years off. My mom she's European immigrant, so it was very like, you got to go back to school. What are you doing with your life? But I wasn't really worried about it because I knew, like, I'm motivated. I want to have a good career. I want to go back to school. So it might be more about, like, just knowing yourself enough to know that if I take a year in Japan doing, whatever you're doing, if you know yourself enough that you're going to go back to school, and maybe things will change. Maybe you will change your mind and go in a different direction. But sometimes you just have to trust yourself and your own motivation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the beauty of being young is you can afford failures. You can try as many things as you want, fail as many times as you may need to fail, or you may be failing, but take every single opportunity as a learning opportunity, and then learn from what you get up from where you fell, right? And then make the right decisions at the time. So.
Yeah, everything you do is going to give you some learning, some new skills, some new insight that's going to help you with the next thing you decide to do. Like going to Japan, you're going to develop so much intercultural skills that you're going to come back. Maybe you decide to, study Japanese studies, or you get into, I don't know, like anime art when it comes to like environmentalism, or you just join the Japanese club at university. Maybe it's just as simple as that. But I think just really knowing that every single thing you do is going to help to build to the next thing. And don't stress yourself out too much about having it all perfectly figured out. The next thing will help you figure out the next thing and the next thing. You don't need to see the whole path in front of you all at once.
Thank you. I just wanted to give each panelist a chance to share maybe a closing remark or closing thought, something that they didn't have a chance yet to share. Haley, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So this was lovely seeing everyone here today and hearing your great questions. One thing I'd like to share is remember to take up space. Like, you belong where you are. Your opinions matter, your perspective matters, and when you look around and you don't see people around you, know that's a perfect place to be, because you being there will drive and support and bring other people as you blaze a trail to build a community in that area.
Mm-hmm. I also wanted to put out there for those who didn't get to ask their questions, we're going to be hanging around after a bit, so please feel free to at least I can't speak for everyone, please feel free to approach me if you had any. In terms of a takeaway, I think when we're at this stage right now, you're feeling so young, you're feeling so green, like you just need to follow and figure out the right path and trying to, contort yourself to fit into a certain box. Please resist that instinct. I like to say, become ungovernable. Move into spaces when you get into school, when you get into work, and really challenge the status quo. Your perspective matters. Your experiences are valued, and there's real power and important insights to come from the way you think and the way you see things that the world really needs.
I think for me, it's probably just, it's so lame, but just really exploring your options because, I myself, spent 8 years after high school pursuing extra education, and over time, I've met a lot of people and learned about a lot of different careers that didn't require necessarily that level of education or that duration of education, and I think that's okay too. Would I choose differently? I don't know, but I think there might be some people in the audience who, at least for me, when I was in high school, it was very you gotta go and do these professional programs. This is what you do to be successful and to be considered successful. And then as you get older, you realize I can be successful in a lot of different ways, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with, 8+ years of education. If that's something you're interested in, absolutely do it. But just keep an open mind and talk to a lot of people in a lot of different fields and really get a sense of the job opportunities out there.
Okay, I guess, my last remark is enjoy being young, enjoy being, in your current stage of your life. I wish I'm back in high school and, have a complete restart over. God knows where I would end up with, right? So yeah, enjoy being young, and again, don't be afraid of exploring new opportunities. Don't be afraid of, failures, and ask for help. Look up for great examples in your community, and I wish you guys all the best.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
As Alicia mentioned, we didn't get a chance to hear all the questions, but the panelists will be out in the atrium later, so make sure you move in quickly to chat with them if you have some lingering questions. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Our final speaker is Shohini Ghosh, and as a girl, Shohini wanted to be an explorer like Rakesh Sharma, the first Indian to go to space. She hasn't made it to space yet, but she did become an explorer of the quantum world as a physics professor at Wilfrid Laurier University. She examines how quantum physics can transform computing and communication and can be used for novel tasks such as teleportation. Shohini aims to create an inclusive scientific community in Canada as the director of the Laurier Centre for Women in Science and as the NSERC Chair for Women in Science and Engineering in Ontario. Shohini's new book, Her Space, Her Time, celebrates women from around the world who transform physics and astronomy. She still dreams of going to space. Please join me in welcoming Shohini Ghosh.
Is there a laser pointer? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited to tell you a little bit about my life as a quantum physicist and my journey that has brought me all the way here. But I'm a physicist, so I want to talk a little bit about physics and make you think a little bit about what physics really is, because who doesn't want to talk about physics, right? Yay. So I'm a theoretical physicist, so I don't really go in the lab and do experiments, but I see the impact of all of the theories and the equations that I think about all the time. So, for example, here's a little demo. You all have seen this thing here. This is a laser, right? I think you can see it. There you go. Dimly up there, the little green light. Have you ever wondered why is this light so different from all the light around you? What's the difference between this laser and that light? Physics. See? It's kind of cool. It's all around you. What do you think? Yeah. Right? Yeah, it's very, very directed, right? It's almost like you can imagine in your head this little, almost like a bullet of light hitting the screen directly from here, there. It's not spreading out like this light. In fact, that's exactly right. This thing, this device, is only possible to build by understanding the properties of light and matter. And if you take this apart, which I think everybody should go, get a little cheap laser and take a laser pointer, take it apart, look what's inside, you'll find that it's kind of, well, these days we think of it as simple, but there's a little tiny, kind of like a special material in there, which we've learned how to manipulate by putting energy in there. We can get it to spit out light, but in a very particular way, like this, right? And in fact, the reason that it's so focused and doesn't spread out is because it really is like this is shooting, kind of like little balls of light out. And we call those packets of energy photons, particles of light. And the only reason we know about photons is because over the last century or so, lots of scientists have been observing how light behaves, what are the properties of matter, and came up with this amazing theory called quantum physics. And the only reason we can build something like a laser is because we can take that understanding and use it to control how light and matter interact and build something like a laser. So right there, you have evidence of quantum physics. There's also, another really great example. In fact, quantum physics is all around you. It has completely changed your life. This is also a quantum device, because this too is built because we can understand how to build, we can understand the properties of matter to the point where we can actually build things like chips, transistors, integrated circuits. You constantly hear about how every next generation of computer is getting faster. You can put more chips in here and get these things to be smaller and smaller and smaller. All of electronics in the entire Silicon Valley, that entire industry exists because we know how to describe and control and build different devices by understanding the properties of matter. So we have all been basically part of what we call the first quantum revolution, which is all the way from the first early steps of developing quantum theory through to building technologies, and now we're on the verge of what we call the second quantum revolution. The first quantum revolution, you might have heard some famous scientists who were involved in developing that. One of them was actually Einstein. He was one of the first. He was actually the one who came up with this idea of photons. Another one you may have heard of, or at least you've heard of, is cat. You know who I'm talking about? Of course. So that's the example of a scientist whose cat is more famous than he is. So what is Schrödinger so famous for? It's actually here, right here on the board. I'll use my pointer again. So you see this? It's nice that we're in a physics institute, because the only place where you'll actually see Schrödinger's equation on the board all the time. We're not going to get into it, don't worry. We won't have a whole lesson on quantum physics. That would take a long time. But yeah, this is the equation that is sort of at the heart of all of quantum physics, and that's why we all know Schrödinger's name, and his cat, of course. But there's actually more to the story of the development of quantum theory. So Schrödinger's equation, it looks kind of like a fairly small, short little equation, but in fact, it describes every single particle and its properties, no matter where you go in the universe. So it's really a powerful equation. But how do we know it's right? In fact, Schrödinger just kind of made it up. It's not like he derived it from a previous equation. He was able to, of course, take into account all of the observations that scientists were making and use that to say, well, this seems like the right equation to explain everything. But you still got to test equations. You still got to understand how the equation really works in the real world. So that's a really good lesson in that when you come up with new ideas, it's great to be creative and try to imagine new possibilities, but it's also important to test out what that new idea is, and is it really doing what you think it's doing? So here's what's really amazing. Lots of people did experiments, but the very first experiment that really found solid evidence that confirms that Schrödinger's equation is correct in the lab by doing observations was done by this student at McGill University, whose name was Laura Chalk. She was the first woman to get a PhD in physics at McGill. And her PhD was about proving Schrödinger's equation. So I really want to make the point that often we feel in certain areas women have not contributed, but it's actually not true. Wherever you look, you'll find that whatever story you know, there's always more to it. So Laura Chalk is somebody, I hope you go look her up. She's an amazing woman, went on to have a career in physics. But she's not the only one. The other really interesting story that I love personally is about this other woman called Cecilia Payne, who also used quantum theory in its early days to think about what is the structure of the sun and all other stars in the universe. And she was able to take the observations of sunlight collected by telescopes and use that to realize that the sun is actually made up mostly of hydrogen and helium, which we all know today. But back then, in the early 1900s, that was actually a big surprise. People thought that the sun and the earth, they're all part of the same solar system, so sun must be kind of like the earth. Whereas the earth is not all hydrogen and helium, right? Because that would be bad, we wouldn't exist. So the sun, everybody thought would be similar, just maybe a little hotter. But turns out that was not true. The sun, and in fact now we know all stars in the universe, are mostly hydrogen and helium while they are in their main life cycle. And because she used quantum theory, which was at the time a pretty new theory, to do all the calculations, others had not quite figured out whether that was correct or not. So people were skeptical to the point, again, this was part of her PhD work at Harvard, and when she presented her work, because people were really surprised by this, she actually added a sentence in her thesis saying, the results are probably not correct. But she still finished her PhD. I'm just going to keep track of the time there. I have a little bit of time, so I'll finish this story. Finished her PhD, went on to have an amazing career at Harvard. She wasn't acknowledged as a physicist for a long time or an astronomer, not given any titles, didn't care. She focused on what she really loved, which was the stars and astronomy, and built up a huge, amazing, impressive body of work, and eventually became the first woman to be chair of any department at Harvard. So that's Cecilia Payne. That's the kind of impact women have had in physics and astronomy. Let's not forget more contributions. For example, a woman named Wu Qianxiang, who came from China to America and did amazing experiments where she actually was able to prove a particular foundational law of physics to be not correct. But the part that I really like about her story is her contribution, again, to quantum physics. These days, you may have heard that there are these very weird properties of quantum particles, something called entanglement, where two different particles can get connected in such a way that you separate them out and take them to, opposite ends of the universe, and when you measure one of the particles, it instantly impacts the outcome of the other particles. Seems kind of like a weird connection. But in fact, this has been tested in the lab. Guess who was the first person to ever figure out this or observe the evidence of this kind of a connection? Wu-Chien Hsiung, way back before she became more well known for her other experiments. She actually explored entanglement and was able to show that there's this connection between particles. Much later, others, of course, confirmed this, and there were many, many amazing, beautiful experiments done. And in fact, last year, the Nobel Prize was given to 3 scientists for entanglement experiments. But of course, Wu-Chien Hsiung was not acknowledged for it, and she's not alive now, and Nobel Prize is only given to people who are living now. So she did not get that recognition. But my point is that there's so many amazing, wonderful contributions that women have made to this field that I'm really passionate about, as you can tell. But when I was a kid growing up, I didn't know any of these stories. They were not in my textbooks. I don't know if any of you are taking physics courses right now. Are they in your textbooks? You've seen them, right? No? Yeah, that's not right. So maybe we have to think about changing these stories. But for me, the way I learned about these stories is as I went through my own career and noticed that there weren't many women in my physics classrooms, and I started feeling alone. I also suffered from imposter syndrome that we've been discussing, wondered whether I belonged. But I actually was also looking for a reason to stay. I didn't want to say, well, I'm an imposter, I'm going to quit. No, it was the opposite. I loved thinking about science and physics. So I thought, well, why is it that there aren't more women in these classrooms? Why is it that there aren't more conversations about it even? So I started asking questions. And as a scientist, one thing we learned to do is to look at data, make observations, look at what has been done before, who has done other similar studies, look for experts, and then build more new theories and models. So I thought I'd do that with this question of why are there no women in physics? And so I reached out to experts in gender studies. I started digging into the history of different kinds of discoveries. I talked to people who are experts in education, and I realized that, in fact, we don't get this full story, that there are, of course, women contributing. There is no real difference. There's no scientific evidence that somehow men are better at physics or science than women. There's lots of these studies. None of them have shown any evidence that there's a difference. The evidence is because or the reason that there's a difference is that because we often attribute certain qualities to men and women, and we have all kinds of ideas and traditions about roles for men, women, and in fact, whether it's about gender or race or any other such background, turns out that the universe doesn't really care. There's no variable in this little equation where the universe is saying, yeah, this part, that H part, only the men can look at. It's not there. So that, to me, is a very important lesson. The universe is telling us, let's explore. The more you explore, the more you're going to learn. So now, I get to be part of this amazing new second quantum revolution. I went on, finished my PhD, focused on quantum physics, and became part of this new, as I said, kind of like this revolution, which is really about taking quantum to the next level, meaning now we can control individual photons almost, to the point where we can use them to do more than building lasers, which is still pretty cool, of course, but to actually put information in them and use them to do calculations. And that's quantum computing. It's very different from regular computers. It's actually very difficult to make quantum computers. But we can think about this and dream again about ideas that seemed like science fiction. For example, using quantum approaches to transmit information, kind of like teleportation, which is definitely a science fiction idea that I remember seeing as a kid in Star Trek. So now, knowing that there have been women who have gone before me and been part of this amazing science revolution is very empowering, because those are the role models and the examples that give me the energy and the inspiration to push beyond what are the expectations and all these roles that we've created for ourselves. And I think the other piece is that I've learned in my own journey is that it's not that, in fact, that I'm a physicist or a woman or a person of color. I am all these things. And being a good scientist means acknowledging and celebrating and using those aspects of my identity. Because as we were talking about before, when you happen to be the only person in the room who happens to be a woman or a person of color or whatever, that means you have a unique perspective. And you know who else had a unique perspective? Schrödinger. He came up with that. Nobody else was thinking that way. So different perspectives in science are really, really important. We don't actually make new discoveries by thinking in old ways. We make new discoveries by thinking in new ways. And if you happen to be the unique person in the room who's not like everybody else, you already have that advantage. You're probably not going to think like everybody else. That's great. So I would say embrace that and ask yourself, when you are facing challenges, instead of thinking about, well, what's my career going to, am I going to be a lawyer or a doctor? Forget that. Instead of asking what you want to be, here's a question to ask: what do you want to do? What do you want to discover? Do you want to save lives as a doctor? Or do you want to help, clean up the planet? Based on those kinds of questions, what makes you feel very strongly? That's what is a good hint towards telling you what you want to do with your life, and then you'll find a path to get there. And the other reason to ask that question, make sure you understand or have some idea of where you want to go in terms of what you want to do. That'll actually help you when you try to find that path, and of course you're going to at some point succeed, and sometimes you will fail. And when you fail, but you know that this is really what you want to do, you'll get up and you'll continue. So I think that's what I want to leave you with, that there are many, many possibilities in front of you. You don't have to know everything. In fact, if you know exactly every single step in your life, actually you're probably doing it wrong, because nobody gets to really know it all, because that would be kind of boring. So I would say, instead of giving you answers, I want to leave you with, what are the kinds of questions you should ask? What do you want to do? Who do you want to be in terms of, all of your identity? Who are you? Because it is important as you build your career, as you progress towards those goals that you've identified, it's important to do it in a way where you are authentic and you align with what matters to you. So do what is important to you, not necessarily what is easy. And if you fail, as I said, which we all do, most of the time, especially in areas like mine, where it's all about research and exploring new ideas, we're not always going to succeed. That's okay. In fact, all new physics, as I said, comes from failure. So embrace failure and ask questions. Even if you don't find answers, the most important thing is to ask questions. So I'm going to leave you with that question. What do you want to do? And I'll take your questions now, I guess.
Is there someone coming down for a question? I think we've got.
And I wanted to ask, if you wanted to pursue your career in terms of theoretical and more experimental things like theoretical medicine and science and even physics, how would you be able to make a living or try to find a way to sustain yourself by that?
There are many careers, actually. I mean, theoretical science is, of course, a very big thing. almost every industry, let's say you're going into telecom, for example, there are, you can actually be somebody who perhaps works on software development within. That's an example of a more theoretical, but you're of course doing it in ways that would be applied to telecom. Similarly, you could do a job in healthcare where you are, thinking about analyzing data, that maybe you're collecting data from test results, and then you analyze. That's theoretical, whereas the actual measurement or doing blood tests and things like this, that could be more of an applied thing. So there are examples of careers across the board in all sectors that could either be theoretical or not. So this is why I say, think not necessarily about those categories, but more about what do you want to do? Do you want to, for example, explore how to better detect cancer? Whether you do that theoretically or experimentally comes next. First ask, what is it that really makes you want to say, oh, that's a problem that I really want to address? Each part of how to address that problem is important, whether it's experimental or theoretical, but that will evolve depending on what you study, what questions you ask next. So you build it step by step, just like you heard in the panel, that you can't really lay it all out at this stage. It's too early. You got to take it step by step.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Dia, and my question is: when going into a field male-dominated, as a South Asian woman, and having to deal with all the negativity that may or may not come your way, such as being looked down upon, or even the example you've previously stated, where women in STEM have not been acknowledged for their contributions, do you have any advice on how to overcome any of those negative aspects? More specifically, any coping mechanisms you have used to ensure that you thrive and are able to achieve your goals in the STEM field?
Wow. Okay, so absolutely, we all face challenges, and I've questioned my own sorts of ability to be part of this field and contribute and things like this, and of course, the imposter syndrome we all face. So I guess I'll share with you my coping mechanism for imposter syndrome these days. And I think about it, I'm like, okay, so turns out almost everybody faces imposter syndrome. We don't necessarily admit it when we're feeling it. So I thought, why not? Why not? Let's just all admit it, acknowledge it, and next step, embrace it. So if you were actually an imposter, let's say at a party, you get crashed at a party, whether you're not supposed to be, what would you do? Would you just say, well, I'm here now, I'm going to leave? No, you'd eat all the food and have, dance around and meet people and pretend you belong, right? And then if they find you out, sure, you've had a good time. So this is kind of how I cope. When I feel like I'm sure, well, maybe I don't belong in physics. I'm just going to do all the physics and enjoy myself. And if that's something that's not going to be acknowledged or accepted, maybe people will come and challenge me, and then I'll deal with it. So there you go. That's one of my coping mechanisms. Embrace your imposter syndrome.
Hi, my name is Alia, and I wanted to ask a little bit about your educational journey towards physics. Is it something you've always been interested in, and what led you into becoming a professor and knowing that that's what you wanted to do?
So I've been, I think, kind of nerdy all my life. I was born and raised in India, and so as a kid, I used to love doing puzzles and problems, and I loved mystery stories, things like this. And I also remember back then in India, we didn't have a TV at home, but on Sunday mornings, I was allowed to go to the neighbor's home because they had a TV, and that Sunday morning there was just one American TV show that I was allowed to watch, and that happened to be Star Trek. So I feel like looking back, at the time, of course, I didn't think about all of that, but looking back, it probably had a big impact on me because I used to love watching the show and dreaming about space and exploring. And eventually that led me to taking more physics courses. I was good at math, had some very supportive teachers in high school, And then in undergrad, the one other thing that was really important was that I had a summer when I worked with the professor on one of these summer projects, internships, and I really recommend that. Even if it's not physics, everybody should, of course, do physics, but just in case you find something else that you like more than physics, I don't know why you would, but anyway, if you happen to, I would strongly encourage you to do some kind of a project where you start exploring questions. That's a really great opportunity that you do get when you go to whatever undergraduate program. So that really helped me to explore a particular problem in physics, and I liked that. And that led me to, look into graduate school, and one thing led to the other, and here I am.
Thank you. We'll have time for one last question.
Hello, my name is Vanessa Sharma, and my question would be, actually I have two questions. One question is, who inspired you to get into this field, and what further advice do you have for young women who want to also pursue this field? Especially for me, because I'm not that good at math, or I'm not that good at physics, but I still want to pursue this field, even though I've been told not to because of how dumb I am or something.
Do you mean quantum?
Quantum computing and astronomy, yeah.
Okay, great. I love your t-shirt. I have the same one, so yay. So for me personally, as I said, it wasn't the being good at math and all of that part, which is the skills for it, came later. For me, it was about the curiosity. Do you enjoy thinking about these?
Yes.
There you go. You already are, you've followed the footsteps towards that sort of goal of being part of this field. You have the wonder, you have the curiosity. Those will be what will drive you towards building the skill set. So now, it's not enough, of course, just to be curious and love the field. You got to have the skill sets, the tool sets. Turns out that it's not something that is somehow hardwired into you, that you're either magically good at math or not. That's not true. As I said, these are the kinds of things where there are lots of studies. And the studies show that math is a learned skill. It's like practice, just like, you have to practice to get good at, dancing or, whatever other particular goal you set for yourself. Math is similar, and there are well-known techniques of building that kind of skill set. And keep in mind, not everything has to do with being just good at math. There are other ways to contribute to this field. And I'm happy to talk to you more about it. But don't get discouraged. And definitely don't let others decide for you what it is that you're good at or bad at, and what it means to be smart or not. Right? Let them think that. But remember the imposter syndrome, where you go and you enjoy the party? Just keep enjoying the party.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Awesome, thanks so much. Thank you, Shogini. We've covered a lot of ground today. Feel free to tweet and post about your favorite moments online using any of the social media channels listed above. As we close, I would like to thank again Linda Hasenfratz for her welcome video today, and for Linamar Corporation's ongoing support of Women in Science as presenting sponsor of this event. For our online audience, thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the session. Please join me once again in thanking all of the speakers and panelists for sharing their experience today.